Empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go. Welcome to the Scoop World Order Zone 6 edition, I believe. We have been going through a lot of topics, a lot of stuff from the past, and, we might have the most impressive wide receiver talent we've ever had over the last 2-3 years, and this year there's not going to be much of a drop-off. So, obviously, Jackson Smith-Njigba is a Heisman contender. He is the preeminent favorite for the Blitnikoff. He'll be first-team All-American in every preseason publication. Obviously had a magnificent Rose Bowl performance, one of the greatest performances in the history of football at any level. And it's a guy that, a lot of people thought was our number 3 wide receiver. I mean, by the end of the year with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave sitting out, he ends up being the statistical leader in every category. Just fantastic. But who could be that next guy? So I'm going to bring in Nevadabuck. Nevadabuck, how are you tonight?
Doing great. Excited about this topic, and can't wait to talk about one of my favorite positions on the field, Ohio State wide receivers, because it's an embarrassment of riches for sure.
Yeah, and since, obviously Zach Smith, he built that room, when he departed Ohio State, he left behind, Terry McLaurin and Paris Campbell and, Johnny Dixon, and then Chris Olave is a freshman. So, and then, Brian has taken it into an even higher level, with his recruiting. He's nailed down the number 1 receiver multiple years in a row. These 5-star all-world talents that, frankly, don't look like 18-year-old freshmen. They look like juniors when they show up. Kids like Emeka, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Garrett Wilson. Their polish is a different level. They come from very well respected and well-coached programs. So that makes a huge difference. But what receiver in your mind could be the next Jackson Smith-Njigba, be the guy that could potentially leap ahead and be the number 1 this year?
Well, I mean, you've got a lot of choices, and you've got Marvin Harrison Jr., who's tremendous. You've got Julian Fleming, who's been out of sight and highly regarded. But for my money, Emeka Ebuka is the guy that you've got to be looking at. And I hope we have some video that we can show that shows not only what a great wide receiver he is, but I'm going to say he's going to be the next great kick returner at Ohio State, and probably the first great kick returner we've had since Teddy Ginn. And he might be in that type of discussion about Teddy Ginn because he's got that special knack for returning kicks that not everybody has. And we saw glimpses of it in the Rose Bowl, and I think that's going to provide another dimension for Ohio State that we haven't seen in a few years. And with these new kickoff rules, everything seems to be taken out to the 25. But with Emeka, he seems like he's a danger to take it the whole way every time he touches the ball, and that's certainly something that we haven't seen in quite some time.
Yeah, and he was an absolute X factor in the Rose Bowl, had multiple long returns. And you're correct. I mean, a kick return, it's not always just about putting a guy that runs a 4.3 back there that's fast. I mean, there's a feel to it. The unit as a whole, it's so dummied down from where it was years ago because you can't set a wedge anymore. It's a 2-man wedge or a single man wedge. Like they've really made it, they've tried to make the game safer. But you need guys that have that feel. It's a lot like playing running back, honestly, because you have to set blocks up. You have to trust your blockers, and also your blockers have to get the job done. But he was fantastic at it. So we'll take it right into the film room, and we're going to start it off with last year's number 3 wide receiver, Jackson Smith-Njigba. This was probably as good of a throw as there was in college football last year. You remember this at Indiana, right over the middle. I'll let you take a glimpse of this, Nevada. I mean, this is as good of a dime as you could ever throw. And I mean, he puts it between 3 guys, and credit to Jackson Smith-Njigba because at that moment you potentially could be getting your head knocked off. In old football before targeting, the safety's got a pretty nice shot on you, and he thankfully doesn't get one on him, but kind of loses his footing and slides. But what were your initial thoughts when you saw this throw live during the game?
Well, again, by all accounts, Jackson's is covered, and CJ just threw him open with just an absolute dime. But you get a glimpse a little bit of why the other players on the team call Jackson Spider-Man, because he's got these huge hands with this incredible grip strength, and he just doesn't drop the ball. He's got the ability to catch punts with one hand off the jugs machine. He's got the ability to catch the ball over the middle, and he just doesn't drop it. And as one of those underrated attributes you were looking for from a wide receiver, catching the ball is one of the biggest things, but not dropping it is another. Is something all together different. And I think this shows all those attributes in one play there, and why he set the all-time college football record for reception yards at any at any level in the Rose Bowl. We're going to see a lot of that this year, and I can't wait.
Yeah, and of course, you can't get out of here without me talking about the protection for a brief moment. So this is, I love looks like this because this is a 5.5 man protection. You run it, and you see, the nice thing about Ruck here is he disrupts this defensive end and their timing. They're running what we call a TE stunt. So this is the tackle, this is the end, and the tackle's going to go up here and contain, and the end is going to loop inside. This is generally a pretty easy stunt to pick up. But it's even easier because Ruck kind of disrupts them and throws the timing off. So Thayer basically has all day to get set up. And, by the time the guy's even, getting into Thayer, the ball's gone. So, I love, it's patient. This is, like I said, this is an easy stunt for the left side. The right side, I don't love as much because Luke, he's versus zero. He's one up. He's kind of on no man's land. Don't like his eyes. I don't know what the call is, but he's looking kind of, I don't know what he would be looking at on this side. You watch it, and I wish that PJ would have just paused here and just posted. He's got the B gap here, but if he just posts up, he could give Luke a little hand here and help him. If you just stop right here and you don't slide as far over, because Dewan's got this guy wrapped up. I mean, that he's heavy on him. He's not a speed rusher. Like, that guy's not going to beat Dewan. So I'd give this guy a little bit of help here, put a hand here, help him secure this better, and I'd have my eyes out here in case he goes inside so you could T-bone him. But the thing I love about this with PJ Paris is, the play, this guy's about to have a bad day right here. He's got Dewan and PJ, two nasty dudes, and PJ turns and puts this guy into the ground. Like, I mean, off the screen. Like, we don't have a wide enough camera angle at Ohio State. And, I mean, you can see, like, Dewan is just kind of standing here laughing. PJ is over here burying this guy. Like, look at this. I mean, he's 15 yards away from the ball. And so that's when those are like the little things that they're like body blows in a boxing fight where you don't see them statistically. You probably don't see that on the TV cast because they're on the ball and they're going downfield to follow the catch. But those are the kind of things that demoralize a defensive lineman. So, and PJ's got that kind of nastiness. He's always had a mean streak. He prides himself on his mean streak. So little things like that are things I love. So we'll go on to the magnificent Rose Bowl. So you were there in Nevada. Tell me a little bit about what you saw of Emeka that day.
Catch the ball, but he did. It was just a tremendous NFL type play, and you started to get a glimpse that Emeka was going to have a big game, and this came at a big time, and it was a great throw. So it was just all around. Maybe the throw and catch of the year, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, the body control is sensational. The awareness is sensational. I mean, there's just no. I mean, I never feel bad for defensive players, but I mean, this isn't bad coverage. I mean, you got the sideline as your ally when you're the corner. He's not looking at the ball because he's probably thinking there's no way that this is going to be caught in bounds, and he does just enough to get his feet in. And it's almost impossible, but that's how good these guys are now. Like, you look at the body control, you look where he catches it. He's leaning out of bounds. He's got the right of mind to drag the feet. I mean, that's it's silly, And I mean, Jackson Smith-Njigba, his freshman year, had one of the greatest catches in college football history where he got that toe tap down. And here, this is what you were talking about earlier with the conviction and the awareness on the kick return. So take us through this a little bit.
Well, I mean, you'd like to say it's great blocking, it's great this, but it's just like you said, it's Emeka just kind of committing, and a lot of times what you see with kickoff returners is guys that don't get up to full speed quickly and don't really run with that conviction. They're kind of running to kind of trying to avoid the hit. Teddy had that ability to be up to top speed in two and a half strides. Emeka's got that as well, and he put it on display every time he had a kickoff. And this was another big one. He had at least two or three other big ones that game, and I think we're going to see more and more of this. But this flips the field. This gets Ohio State out to the 40 at a big time for them, and it was just something out of nothing. And so that's those types of extra yards you get out of out of a player like Emeka Ebuka, and that's how you win football games.
Yeah, and it's one of those weird things that people don't realize mentally. When you're on this sideline and you're the defensive guys and you have to defend on the 40, and you're on the other sideline down here and you're coming out on the 40, that makes a big difference between being on the 25 or if they kick it and you get pinned inside the 25. Mentally, it's a big deal because at a minimum you're going to flip the field. And the way we punt and the way that we get down there and force fair catches, I mean, you're going to flip the field. You're going to be down inside the 10 for the defense. But, coming out on the 40 mentally is a lot different than the 25, which I know that sounds weird, but it's the truth. So here's another look to him. CJ, nice and easy. Two had a rough day. But you were there. Take me through this. I mean, you see the space, the respect on the route.
Well, just what I look for in those guys is those guys that can make that catch, 5 yards behind the chain, and he's got the quickness and the awareness to kind of turn the corner and pick it up and add another 10, 12 yards to the play. Turns out to be a nice 17-yard gain, and those are backbreakers for the defense. And like you said, it could be an easier throw. He's wide open out there on the left, but you take a quick little 5-yard run or 5-yard throw and turn it into a 17-yard gain. And that's how you put a lot of points on the board.
Yeah, and something I love, and this is something that Ryan Day likes to do a lot. I think it's brilliant scheming is when you go three into the boundary. So this is the boundary. This is the short side of the field over here. And when you put three receivers, so you put your tight end, your other two wide receivers, and your tailback on that side, it really forced the defense to shift. And so this poor guy's on an island versus a guy who's really dangerous. So I love going 3-by-1, especially into the boundary because it's kind of unorthodox. It's not something you conventionally line up to. You see it more and more in college football, but it's something that it's a pain. And you're like, all right, you line up to this defense, and I hope that this guy is really really good because he's going to be going against a guy who we're focused, who we're basically trying to showcase on this one play. And it's the guys out there. You get him 10 yards, and it's just a free first down. So I love when we go three into the boundary. So we'll go to the next one. But yeah, this was getting down to the nitty gritty, man. I mean, were you feeling pretty good? I mean, after at halftime, probably wasn't quite as good. You probably got some nachos in your system, and you're getting ready for this final amazing comeback. But I think the next play is the kick return. Yeah, this was huge.
Yeah, well, I said before this play that I thought that Emeka was going to take it to the house, and you see him just boom right up the field. Again, that's not great blocking. That's not great. That's just great individual effort, great individual, just having a feel for being a kickoff returner. And those are the things that, in a game, if you pick up an extra 10, 15, 20 yards on a return and you do that 3 or 4 times a game, that's as good as a score. That's a touchdown right there. And here we could have been stopped and held back on the 20. Instead, he pulls it up there. We're in business at the 44-yard line. That's 2 first downs difference, and that's in a game that's decided by 3 points, that's literally the difference in winning and losing. And I think his kickoff returns played no small measure in the fact that Ohio State won that Rose Bowl.
Yeah, and I've got to shout out two of my favorites, man, because we got Mitch Rossi back for his 85th year, and we have Cade Stover, who two tough guys, two utility guys, team first, really good players, both mucking it up here. I mean, Mitch, he gets this guy pretty good. That's always a good feeling when you see a guy do the helicopter like John Elway in the Super Bowl. But like I love, when kids out there on special teams, kind of setting the one man wedge. But you're right. Like Emeka, the biggest thing is, he picks these guys in white, and you're coming out on like the 44, and you're like, oh god, these guys don't really have that far to go. Versus, these guys on red, the O line and whatever. The linemen are usually all you'll see them. They're usually like down here, like lined up, ready to huddle up, assuming we're going to get on about the 25. When you get to walk all the way up to about the 44, again, it doesn't seem like a lot to the average person, but like mentally, it's a massive difference. So, but I'm looking forward to seeing this, man, and we'll break down Marvin Harrison Jr. next. But what do you project for a stat line for Emeka for next season?
Well, I think he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver, and I think Emeka literally will be the next big breakout star. I think he'll have a breakout season similar to what Jackson Smith and Jigba had this year, where before the season, people really weren't talking about him that much. And at the end of the year, he's a household name. I predict the same thing for Emeka. I think he's going to have that kind of an impact. And, but again, I think he's going to do it on the return game as well. I think he's going to make some big returns and be one of the premier return guys in all of college football. And I think that makes him doubly valuable for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about when you're a great returner is you can sneak onto an All-American team as a return guy too. Because Teddy did that his freshman year, and that gives you a little. They give you a little bit of a utility there, where it's like you have like an extra eligibility spot. So, but I agree with you. And again, like if we set like Las Vegas odds preseason last year, what would the odds have been that Jackson Smith and Jigba would have led us in receiving? I mean, with Garrett and Chris Olave coming pretty low, I would think. I mean, I don't know how many people would have been. People might have laid a little bit on it, but I don't have anyone that's going to put their house on that one, and it ended up happening. So with this offense and the proficiency of C.J. Stroud and the way Ryan likes to draw stuff up and get guys open, like you never know who's going to be the leading receiver for a game, which is always why it's kind of fun. So, with that being said, we'll do Marvin Harrison Jr. We've got Brian Schottenstein coming. We've got some really good stuff coming on Scoop Order. Appreciate your support. Please click subscribe. Get our alerts. Our site is growing like crazy. The YouTube channel is growing. We appreciate all your feedback. Thank you for tuning in. Leave us comments down below because I always love the feedback and see what else would you guys like for us to break down during these winter months and the few weeks leading up to spring ball. So appreciate you guys. You guys have a great one. This has been the Scoop World Order.